Alston, who is a member of Mother Emanuel AME Church and an educator, civil rights leader, and former member of our site council at Drayton Hall, and a friend. So we're delighted to have you here this morning. Tony Carrier was to be here this morning to talk about the collections, but she lives in Tampa, and for obvious reasons is not here with us this morning. You see several things in front of you. One is and you can share these around, pass these around, but one is resources for this session. There's contact information for us three and Tony. And then questions for you. I've been asked to write an essay for History News about history museums responding to violence and tragedy. And I'd like to hear your suggestions and questions. And then also questions from an essay that I've written for historical organizations for your thought as a response. And then also questions from a session we did earlier at the American Alliance of Museums. So that's just a resource for you. And also some information about the Illumination Project, which Liz and I have worked with in Charleston. That's for you. As chairman of the session, I'm to give you some information. I'm to remind all of you to fill out your session evaluations and either leave them in the room right there or bring them to the AASLH registration desk. Also, I'm to ask you to please think about what part of these ideas and discussions that you can scale up or down to make meaningful for your organization. And I hope during our discussion we can hear from you, and we can make this session all the more meaningful. Also, at 10:45 this morning is the AASLH meeting of the membership, and you are invited to come to that. So again, I appreciate so much you being here. And I'm going to begin. Title of the session is Commemorating Tragedy, Healing Wounds, Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm going to talk about both how we responded to the awful tragedy at Mother Emanuel, and then also what we've done since. And if history be a guide, we're going to have another tragedy. We don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to catch us by surprise. It's going to catch us by surprise. So now is the time to start thinking about that and preparing for this. I've written an essay that's going to be appearing in a book published by AASLH entitled Commemorations, and here Commemorating Tragedy of Mother Emanuel AME, and that's going to describe the work that the four, and Tony too, have done over the last 2 years, and I hope that can be of help to you. You've also got, for further resources, you've got that page, and then I've been asked to write this article for History News, and I'd really like to hear from you so that the article in History News is germane to your own work, and there you see my website, so I'd like to hear any suggestions from you. Well, first of all, just a word about Mother Emanuel. It's the oldest AME church in the nation, founded in 1819. Denmark Vesey was a member of that congregation, and after his planned insurrection, the church was disbanded and burned. And then after the Civil War and emancipation, it was rebuilt, and then the current edifice was built in 1893. Over the years, it was a center for the African American community, center for the civil rights movement, and in fact, because of its important history, it was targeted for that massacre on June 17th, 2017. I'm sorry, 51. I'm sorry, 15. Yeah. So again, my point is that this could happen to you. We've both seen the recent example in Charlottesville, Barcelona, Manchester, London, Boston. The list goes on and on. and the common theme is that it was a surprise to all these communities. And so the question is, what should museums, what should historical organizations do? And one of the takeaway messages from our session, from our presentations, is to begin thinking about this possibility now, begin planning, and be proactive, and to get engaged in your community now, so that you can be prepared. You have personal relationships, you have institutional relationships that you can depend on. In thinking about responding to these tragedies, the response takes a personal as well as professional toll. We can all respond to that, and none for us as professionals has been a deeper toll, as of course as has been for Liz, who is a member of the church and friend of all the victims. The response by the historical organization is both a blessing in that to deal with the response uplifts one's spirits. You can see the better side of the better angels, but it's also a burden of responsibility. So that's why you need to think now about how, and then also how you can transform the tragedy into an opportunity. The awful truth is that people target persons different from them because they're persuaded that those other people are other. They're the other. And so they can kill them, they can do awful things because that other person is so different because of their religious differences, their sexual identity, their race, their ideology. You know the litany. That's the process that goes through. And I think that's what we museums can do proactively to help dispel this false picture that people create in their own minds that lead them to think that these differences outweigh our common humanities, our commonalities. And just yesterday we saw the excellent program of engaging communities about what historic organizations are doing. After the tragedy, there's an immediate sense of loss, pain, anger, and people want to do something. And people want to express their grief, sympathy, hopes, their prayers. They come together, they come to the place of the tragedy. And they're hoping, they want to express that love will conquer hate. So organizations that we work for, what can we do to sustain our better angels that we see responding at the moment of these tragedies? At a Mother Emanuel AME, people came to the church by the thousands. It's become now a pilgrimage site to express their grief, their hopes, their prayers, their sympathies. They wanted to be with others, and they wanted to either sing or pray or just discuss. But they wanted to do more than just express themselves verbally. They wanted to leave objects there. And objects have their own language. It's a visual language. It's kinetic. They're leaving something there. It's tactile. It gives an expression to their very deep feelings that words alone cannot. The massacre occurred Wednesday night, and I went down to Mother Emanuel Friday and Saturday and participated in that moment. And for me, it wasn't just an abstract experience, it was deeply personal. Liz and I have been longtime friends. I've gone to services there at Mother Emanuel. As I saw the range of artifacts